With Summer Game Fest 2025 wrapped up, with so many games announcements and new reveals and updates that we already know from some of the other games, honestly, my opinion, I thought that this whole showcase was good. It was not great, but it was good. The first like about half an hour it was fantastic, the beginning of the showcase, and the last about 10 minutes was phenomenal as well. But between that there were quite a lot of filler that I genuinely had no interest of even paying attention towards those games that they were showcasing. Now it's not to say that I was like completely tuned out. Still, I was paying attention, but it just left me some ways even bored. But nevertheless, I want to say that there were few games that I am very much looking forward to. And in this video, of course, we will be going over Code Vein 2. During Summer Game Fest 2025, Bandai Namco surprised everyone by announcing Code Vein 2, a long-awaited sequel to their 2019 action RPG. I still remember when the first game came out. I loved it so much when I went back and I even earned that platinum trophy for it. Code Vein has a special place in my heart, and honestly, I never thought that we'd get a follow-up. It always felt like a niche title in the Souls-like world, quietly building a loyal fanbase but never quite breaking into the mainstream conversation. Seeing a proper sequel hit the stage was one of the most exciting moments of the showcase for me. So, Code Vein mixes gothic vampire-inspired visuals with the tight, challenging combat of games such as like Dark Souls. You play as a revenant, a sort of an undying warrior who relies on blood to power up skills. As you explore ruined cities and fought monstrous foes, you drain enemies for blood to unlock new abilities and survive. So the rich character creator, the partner system that lets you bring an AI ally into every fight, and the cooperative multiplayer all combine to give Code Vein a distinct personality. Now, it wasn't perfect. Some levels felt very repetitive and the story could get a bit confusing, but for me, it still has clicked. The art style, the soundtrack, the thrill of the hard-won victory, I loved every bit of it. The new game picks up in the same bleak, post-apocalyptic world. Humanity is on a brink, revenants struggle for survival, and mysterious forces are at work. But there's a major twist this time manipulation. So the trailer teases moments where characters freeze, rewind, or even rewatch past events, hinting that players may be able to turn back the clock to change outcomes. Bandai Namco dropped lines like, and I quote, "If time were a weapon, could you undo the sins of destruction?" And it sounds quite dramatic, and you know what, I'm here for it. And from what I have seen, the world remains dark and crumbling, but new locations look quite varied. Shattered cities buried under the snow, time-twisted ruins frozen mid-collapse, and eerie labs where experiments with blood and time went horribly wrong. The emphasis on yellow lighting against the usual gray and black backdrops may symbolize hope, or maybe it marks the moment when time magic kicks in. Of course, we know very little about the actual story beat so far, but the trailer introduces at least two new faces. One is a female revenant who seems to wield time magic. She's shown rewinding her own death, as if reliving the same moment to gain an edge. The other is the mysterious guy with some kind of a pulsating object attached to his back. And are they allies, rivals? Neither character speaks in the trailer, but their body language screams major players, and perhaps the main MCs anyway. We can probably expect to build a bond with your own AI partner again. In the first game, those relationships unlock special dialogue, skills, and even secret endings. If Code Vein 2 leans into its kind of a themes of fate and memory, having a companion who remembers past failures or helps you rewrite them could be a powerful way to drive both gameplay and the story. So the combat in Code Vein was all about timing your dodges, positioning to drain blood, and choosing the right skills on the fly. Code Vein 2 appears to keep those core mechanics, but layers on several new twists. First, time-based abilities, as mentioned a little bit already. So imagine slowing the time to dodge a flurry of attacks or freezing a boss mid-combo, as you can land the critical hits. The trailer's quick cuts hint that these powers might even let you rewind a violent mistake, say bringing back a fallen ally or undoing a disastrous parry. And then there's jails. Now, we saw glimpses of strange cage-like weapons called jails. They look like an expanding metal frames or shackles you can hurl at the enemies, possibly trapping them or ripping through armor. It's an exciting concept that could add a crowd control flair to fights. And then there's enhanced blood codes. The original blood codes let you swap between different character classes on the fly. And Code Vein 2 seems to expand that kind of a system with more skill trees, deeper customization, and maybe even temporarily overclocked states when you dip into the time magic. And that's the dynamic arenas. There are quick shots of motorcycle roaring through a ruined highway, could be set pieces where you battle foes on the move, or a way to quickly traverse long stretches between boss arenas. It certainly adds a fresh pace compared to the most on-foot combat of the first game. Fans were quick to point out that the trailer graphics didn't look like a massive step up from the original, and some even joked they felt like PS4 era visuals at 25 frames per second. Personally, I think it still looks stylish, that heavy, oppressive atmosphere, the gothic costumes, the dripping blood effects. If anything, I appreciate that Bandai Namco is preserving the series' signature look rather than chasing hyper-realism. The standout is definitely the yellow lighting. In a world drowned in ash and ruin, streaks of gold yellow feel almost sacred, like markers of hope, or maybe a very essence of time magic bleeding into the environment. Whether this choice holds narrative weight or just a visual cue, it does give the sequel its own identity. You know, some of the fans are actually a little bit split on this game. Some hail Code Vein 2 as a revival this unique series deserves, and they point out that despite its flaws, the first game had heart and amazing soundtrack, and a world unlike anything else in the genre. Others worry that the trailer was just too short on its actual gameplay, but you know, that really doesn't warrant it since this is just an announcement, and on top of that, this still is a game coming out in 2026, so we will get an opportunity, plenty of them on top of that, of seeing the proper gameplay for this game. You know, a big talking point is the character creation. The original's editor was surprisingly deep. Fans want even more options this time, from the body sliders to customizable blood vein patterns. You know, and then there's our old characters. It kind of makes it an interesting question, will we see the classic faces like your return, or is this like a brand new cast completely? Anyway, Bandai Namco has stayed deliberately quiet, so speculations are of course running wild. Now, Code Vein borrowed a lot from Souls-like, but it distinguished itself with blood-draining skills, a built-in partner system, and a bleaker vampiric vibe. Code Vein 2 looks to build on those strengths while leaning harder into the time control. Now, if done right, the rewinds could add a layer of strategy rarely seen in the genre. Now, imagine risking a big time manipulation move, knowing you can undo it if it backfires. Now, that said, I hope that they don't overcomplicate things. The beauty of the first game was that it's a somewhat clear feedback loop: fight, drain, upgrade, repeat. Jails and time magic are cool on paper, but they need to feel as tight and as intuitive as the core combat. Now, my biggest fear that the sequel piles on mechanics at the expense of the clean, pulse-pounding fights I fell in love with back then. It is a little bit worrisome kind of nature within the sequel that we could face. Now, Bandai Namco hasn't given a release date beyond 2026 window, nor have they shown any extended gameplay. My guess is that we'll see perhaps more at the Tokyo Game Show or in a dedicated, I don't know, Nintendo, perhaps PlayStation showcase later this year. A beta test or even a demo would go a long way to quench the thirst from the fans and say that their concerns about the performance and the scope, you know, it could actually be alleviated to some degree. I'm especially eager for developer interviews that dive into how time manipulation works in practice and whether those yellow lighting cues tie into the story in a meaningful ways, at least. And of course, you know, seeing Code Vein 2 announced was a genuine thrill. I never expected this niche sort of a game to spawn a sequel. But now that it's real, I'm actually somewhat cautiously optimistic. The blend of the blood-draining combat, anime-inspired style, and lifeline mechanics gave the original its unforgettable flavor. Now, if the sequel can keep that core intact while adding smart time-bending features, we could be in for something special. Of course, I'll be paying attention to the rest of the trailers in the future that will be coming up with extra information that will be dropping as well, and I will report back as soon as I can. And of course, you can expect many more videos coming from me, all related to Code Vein 2. Well, here's hoping Code Vein 2 lives up to the promise of its boldest ideas yet, that perhaps maybe you can actually rewrite the destiny, as they say. But nevertheless, thank you so much for watching, like and subscribe. See you guys, and yeah, have a wonderful day.